This lesson is about memorising facts in sequence using a memory technique traditionally known as a peg system or Loci system, L-O-C-I. This very old approach to memorising involves using images. So the information which you might have, such as paragraphs on a page of a textbook, which you need to memorise for an exam, you need to turn them into images because the brain remembers images very well. And what people do is spend time learning a sequence of images so that they know them from 1 to 100, or maybe they know hundreds of images in sequence. And these images are places, visual places at which the information you'd want to memorise for an exam gets imagined. So one or two facts or more of a paragraph could be imagined as images at one of these places. And because the places are in sequence, by visiting the places in your memory one by one, you would be effectively recalling the facts which are on the page of your textbook in sequence. Some of the information in a textbook would be easy to visualize because it might be a particular person who you've seen a photograph of before, and the textbook is talking about that person, so you can imagine that person quite easily. However, the information on the page might be a reference number or a year, and that would be harder to memorize on the face of it because visualizing numbers and reference numbers is a lot tougher to do than imagining a simple household object or imagining a person whose face you're familiar with. A way around this is to have an image for each digit from 0 to 9, or to have images for each pair of digits from 00 to 99. Similarly, if you don't know what someone's face looks like, maybe you could remember their name by just memorising the initial letter of the person's name, or the first two letters of the person's name, as a prompt to remind you of what you're trying to actually recall from a textbook. In order to do that, people create an alphabet of images so that the letter A could be an apple, because apple begins with A. B would be something beginning with B, like a ball, a balloon, a brick. Anyway, once someone comes up with this list of equivalents that a particular letter means a particular object, they then spend time memorising this system. They also spend time memorising the sequence of places, the Loci, which I talked about earlier. In fact, it takes a lot of time and a lot of study to acquire this knowledge of images that will then help you to learn other things quickly. And you have to decide whether you have the spare time to learn a big system like that to make it worth your while. That's why it would be good if these memory systems were to be taught in schools at an early age, so that people don't really have to put a lot of effort in, and they just have that system there and they can apply it when they reach tough exams later on in life. There is a shortcut to having a long list of places to visit in sequence, and the shortcut is to have some relationship between the number of the place, like it might be place 100 in your list, or place 55, place 87 in your list, and to use that number in some way to suggest what the place is. You can have letters of the alphabet associated with each digit. So place 55 or place 555 would be inspired by the letters of the alphabet which go with the digits. 555 could be a white nest poster. So you just have to imagine a big poster with a nest on it, and the poster's white, obviously. Or you could imagine a pike-wielding Norseman. In both cases, the first letter of the 3 words describing the place, the first letter matches up with one of the numbers from the list of letters which go with a number. Sometimes it would be 2 letters like SH, TH or CH, which have a number association. That can be a bit tricky because you might wrongly think of CH as a C that needs to have its digit found, followed by an H which needs to have its digit found, but actually you'd just be looking up the digit relating to CH, which is 1. And my approach isn't to do this. My approach is to have 1,000 places, and I'll get on to that shortly. However, for a smaller list of 60 places, I decided on using 6 rooms of a house and having an image of items in each of those rooms, 10 items per room. So 6 rooms times 10 items would give me 60 images to imagine as places. So in a bathroom, you could have the bath tiles as a place to imagine, and at that place I can imagine whatever textbook information I'm interested in memorising, maybe 1, 2 or 3 images placed in there. And then the next place on, I'd imagine other items to do with the next bit of recall of the textbook page. For the list of 1,000 places, and to remember them in sequence, I prepared buildings as if they're on a street, and the roof of a building would indicate the first digit of a 3-digit number. So I have 10 roof images representing digits 0 through to 9. I also have the base or the main part of a house, and I have 10 images of that, and that would be indicated by the second digit of a 3-digit number. And then the third digit of a 3-digit number would be the colour of that main base of the house. Other features get calculated in other ways, but for the first 100 shops of the street, that roof, main base of house and colour approach holds true. So by going through from 000 to 001 to 002 all the way up to 999, I have a little bit of a clue of what each house is going to look like in an imaginary town called Bloke Town. In order to make the buildings or shops of the town be distinct from one another, I've used a colouring system, and I've used 50 props for items which could be on the street next to the shop, and I've positioned them either on the left or on the right. I've also got 100 icons or pictures which are meant to represent 100 types of shop which you might find in a street. So every 100 shops of the street would be a unique type of shop, like a butcher's or some sort of dairy farm. And so these different colours and shapes hopefully make the houses distinct from each other, because they are quite similar, because they're using the same roofs and they're using the same main look. So yes, using surrounding objects and using a mix of colours hopefully makes them distinctive enough. Memorising items in sequence can be fun. You could memorise non-academic material, like a pack of cards. If each card in the pack has its own image, and you imagine those images at these different sequential locations. Whether you memorise for fun or for an academic reason, once you imagine an image at a place, or several images at a place, it will take time to naturally forget that those items are at that place. So if you cram for an exam and memorise images at a location, they might still be persistent in your memory the next day when you come to cram for another exam. So they won't disappear easily, necessarily. It's good to have a lot of location places to imagine, so that you don't rely too much on a place where there's a persistence of the memory of what you were trying to memorise before that has no relevance now. Going back to what I was saying earlier about the colour of the downstairs main part of a house, the colour for the first 100 shops is just a case of looking at the third digit of the number. However, there's an issue there, which is that digit 2 and digit 3 of the 3-digit number decide which shop icon to use. And if digit 3 is always going to be the same colour for the bottom of the house, then every time you see an icon, it's going to be occurring for a house with that downstairs colour. And so different houses might be less memorable. So what I did was introduce a rule that the downstairs should be a colour that's based on digit 1 and digit 3 of the 3-digit number. I add digit 1 to digit 3, and in some way that decides what the colour is. For what the shop front actually looks like, I'm just looping through 11 shop fronts. I either use some sort of a calculation, or I use a planting of general knowledge within a picture to create variety and hopefully to help me to learn general knowledge.